Hello and welcome to Andy and Katie's Allotment. I'm Andy and welcome to our YouTube channel. As I said in my last video, I wanted to do a series of maybe 3 or 4 videos that are just what I'm going to call Jargon Busters. Really basic terminology that we use in allotment gardening, vegetable gardening in general, that I've seen on people are asking questions on social media and maybe getting criticised or made to feel silly for asking what others see as basic questions. There is no basic question, there is no silly question, because if you don't know, you don't know. So this is what the aim of this video is. This one is number 1 and is aimed at right from the sowing of seeds right till getting them ready for planting out into the plot. So the first definition that I'm going to go for is sowing. So it sounds quite simple, and in a way it is, but there's different ways of doing it. So I'm just going to use these flower seeds to show how I'm doing it. And one way, the easiest way of doing it, or one way of doing it, is in a seed tray. So I'm going to broadcast sow these over the surface of the compost. So this is just multi-purpose compost, quite fine, so that it's nice and easy for the seeds to germinate in. So I'm just broadcasting them over the surface of the compost like that. Just out of interest, these are called straw flowers, so they're the flowers that florists use for like dried flower arrangements. So that's that. So then the next thing you need to do is obviously just cover. Now most seeds don't like to go particularly deep, so I've just got a small pot of compost, and it is literally just covering them, and that is a simple sowing. So the next way of sowing seeds is in a module tray, and so as I say, this is a 30 cell module tray that I've pre-filled with compost. And then basically the idea is that you make indentations with your finger in order for the seeds to go where they're going to go, and then after that, whatever seed you're putting in there, so it has to be, it's more for bigger seeds really, unless you're multi-sowing. And so in this instance, what I've done is I've sown a tray of sweet peas here. So you can see there's two seeds that I've put into each cell, and they've just started to come up now. So that's how I sowed those. So moving on from sowing, something that you might hear a lot is a term called multi-sowing. So as I did mention it before with the radishes that you saw, that I put more than one seed in each cell. The idea of that is that you get a little clump of radishes, or a little clump of spinach in this case, and then they grow together, and you don't thin them out, and they go in exactly as you saw them before. So if you hear the term multi-sowing, that's what it means, more than one seed in each cell. Moving on from multi-sowing, once you've got your seeds in, then you have to wait for them to germinate. Now, the technical term for germinate means that they go from a state of dormancy or sleep to bringing them to life to sprout. That's basically what germination means. So it means it's kick-starting the seed into life. Now there's three main things that you need for that. The first thing is, for germination, the things that you need are water, but not too much. You need a compost or a planting medium, and the third thing you need is warmth. There's only two seeds that you actually need light to germinate, and that's celeriac and celery. But the rest of the vegetable seeds, you don't need light, so you can germinate them in the dark, but they just need warmth. So that's why it's a good idea, once you've sown your seeds, for the first 5 or 6 days to bring them inside where it's nice and warm, for them to germinate. And that's all germinate means, is to kickstart them into life. Okay, so this is some seeds again that I've sown in both ways that have now come up. So this is some radish that I put in. So I put in about 4 or 5 seeds per cell in there, and then what will happen is when it comes to planting time, just literally push it up and then untangle them from each other and push from the bottom to get a little multi-sown clump of radishes, and they'll go straight into the ground as you see them there. So the next thing is that you can see there that I broadcast, so I sowed them in rows actually. These are lettuces. So there's 2 rows of lettuce. That's one kind. That's another. And then these are spinach that I grew it there. So the other side of this one again is spinach. That again I sowed 3 or 4 seeds per cell. So you've planted your seeds and they've begun to germinate. So you can see on this tray that I showed you before of sweet peas that these are just over a week old. So these are now germinated, but because they're in cells and because I've put them in like the right medium, then they don't need to be transplanted, which is the next the next term. So you hear pricking out or transplanting. So this is where the teaspoon comes in. So you've got your tray of multi-sowed seeds. So you need to then put them into the into the cells. So the first thing you need to do, so if I show you with these seeds here, main thing is when you're handling a baby seedling like this, is never be tempted to handle the stem. Always handle the leaf, because if the leaf comes off, then it will grow another one, or it can grow another one. Whereas if you snap the stem, that's it. That seedling will die. So as you can see, it's come out nice and clean. You've got the leaves, or these are the initial leaves, and then you've got the stem, and then coming down from there is the root. So then I won't show you on these because these have got some spring onions in, already multi-sown. But what I would do if I was using this tray to transplant that seedling is I would make a little hole in the compost, just as far down as I can get it, because then what you do is you'd plant it quite deep so that only a little bit of it is still sticking out. So it would be sort of like that, as deep as you can get it, right up to the leaves if you can. It just means that the it anchors the plant into the compost. So that's pricking out and transplanting. Okay, so as you can see on here, this again going back to the sweet peas, you can see that I haven't covered these with soil or with compost. I've covered them with a thing called vermiculite, and vermiculite is a very, very light expanded rock. It's not got any nutrients in it whatsoever, but it just it's basically like a mulch. So you put it in there and it helps drainage. It gives the seedlings a bit more of a better start. Because the reason that I'm trialing this is to stop what they call capping. Now, capping is where the compost at the top of the compost at the top of the tray becomes dry, and it forms like a crust or a cap, and the baby seedlings find it a lot more difficult to push their way through. So if you put vermiculite on instead of the compost, then it can make it that much easier for them to push their way through the vermiculite as opposed to a dry layer of compost. So the final definition that I want to cover in this video, after you've put things into cells, you might find that if for whatever reason the situation isn't right, the weather isn't right, or you just haven't got the room or whatever, and you need to keep the seedlings growing, that you might have to what they call pot them on. So this is basically going from a cell into a pot. So I'm going to show you, I've been growing a little baby spider plant. So this isn't a vegetable, but it's the principle is the same. So I've got a I don't know, probably a 3-4 inch pot here, and so what I'm doing is I'm just making a hole that's big enough to accommodate the roots and some of the stem, push them in, and there we go, one spider plant potted on. And as I say, I use that if there's a situation where leeks are a good example, that if your leeks become ready before you're ready to put them in the ground, if you're going in after potatoes and your potatoes are a little bit late, then you may have to pot them on into pots before you put them out into the plot if you're waiting for the potatoes to harvest. But as I say, that is the term potting on.